Good day, my friends. It's your old pal Jordan the Lion and your old pal Scott Michaels of Dearly Departed. How are you all doing today? I hope you said well. Today we're coming to you from Montgomery, Alabama, and today we are going to be doing a vlog that I am going to love sharing with you. Today we're doing the filming location for the fantastic, iconic Tim Burton movie Big Fish. Now I have been to the Town of Spectre before from the movie, and we're going to go there again today. But today we are doing as many locations as I can possibly get to. Daze with Jordan the Lion, your old pal Scott, and you all, it begins right now. Keep your fingers crossed for this location. This is a real shot in the dark whether we're going to get to see it or not. So this is a plantation home called Dixonia, and online it said that sometimes it's open to the public. I just couldn't find a phone number for it, and I got out here and gave them a call. Maybe they'll call back while we're out here, but this was the witch's house, and kind of through their gate you can kind of see a little bit of the house, not a ton, but you can see a little bit. So if they don't end up wanting us or letting us to go in and see it, you can see the little bit of it right there. You can see the pillars. They dirtied it up a little bit, and this is where, when Edward's a little kid, him and all of his friends are out here, and they're talking about the witch, and they're saying that if you can go up and get her eye, that's the name of the game, or that's what their object is, to get the eye. But if you see inside the witch's eye, you see how you die. So Edward actually is adventurous enough to go up to the door and knock, and he meets the witch, and she comes out and shows them all her eye individually, and they all see how they die, and Edward sees how he dies. At the very end, he has his son tell him the story of how he dies. So our next location brings us out to Capitol Heights Middle School, the football field and the baseball field. These are the scenes where Edward is a young man and he's showing off his ability on the field, and we can see a couple of things really identifiable here. So they use the same field for both sports. And we see this. Edward is running towards us as the football hero. You can see the scoreboard. It was painted a little differently in the background. You can see all of that while he's playing football. And then you also see, when the fans are cheering for him, this. And they would have had, actually, oh, it's still there. Behind faded paint, right there in between the top row of shutters and the second row of shutters, you can see where it still says Home of the Tigers, just like it did in the movie. See it right in there? And then if we follow straight ahead, there's the backstop and home plate from when Edward is playing baseball. So here's our pitcher's mound. This is when Edward is telling the story from his bed, because he's growing at an alarming pace. He's saying that a giant-sized man can't be kept in an average-sized world, and so he started doing extraordinary things. And we see the pitcher wind up from his pitch right here, and then we have the shot of Edward crushing the ball right here. You can see that was back there right behind the backstop. Even then, the announcer's booth, the home plate would have been right up here. So if you cut the field basically in half, that's how they filmed it. Baseball scenes over here, football scenes right here. Now our next location actually takes us outside of Montgomery to where Edward is gonna sacrifice himself. We've made our turn in, and where we're looking for is where they built Carl's Cave, Carl the Giant. Apparently there's a small boat landing back here. As we walk down the boat ramp, I believe they built the cave down at the very bottom where the water is. So here we have a shot, would have been across the river pointed at us, of Edward, and this is where Carl's Cave is. They actually built it right here on the end of the dock. They would have created that whole structure right here, and he goes in there and starts calling for the giant, and finally the giant comes out and tells him to quit yelling, and the giant comes out here, and you can see that those trees were there even in the shot then, and how they could have just cluttered this up a little bit with rocks and debris and stuff to get that shot. When they do turnarounds of Edward talking, you can see these rocks, you can see the bit of land over here also in the shot. This is when Edward's telling him that the town has sent him as a sacrifice and he wants the giant to eat his arm. Maybe you're just too big. And he says, you're just trying to get rid of me. Edward says, no, I'm too big for this town too. I'm a man of ambition. And you can also see this in the shot. Well, many of our locations today take place in a town called Wetumpka, Alabama. It's a little northeast of Montgomery, and that's the town that they substitute for Ashton. We see quite a bit there of, that's Edward's hometown. So here we've made it to the Elmore County Courthouse, and this is where we see the mayor is fielding questions from everybody because their sheep are getting eaten by the giant. And so he's up here saying, you know, I don't know what we can do. And we have a turnaround shot right here of all the townspeople out here, and Edward walks up and basically offers to sacrifice himself to the giant in order to get the giant to leave town, talk him into leaving town. So next thing you know, he's out there at the cave where we have filmed, and then after he makes a deal with the giant to leave town, they're back here, and we see actually the giant is standing right here on the steps, right up here on top of the steps of the courthouse. Edward has cleaned him up. He's now all shaved and looking good, and they start walking down this way through the town. Basically the town starts having a parade. I'm gonna see if we can't find as we walk along here, because they actually show them passing some of the buildings. I wanna see if we can find where the witch pulls Edward aside. So as they're walking through here, you know, Edward always says he was just too big for this town. They're walking along here, and you kind of get to see some of these buildings. And then you see this behind the giant, Carl. Scott Michaels and I have looked up and down all of this street and all of this street, and we cannot find where they zoom in on Edward talking to the witch for her advice. I don't think it was filmed here. Not in this little section. That might have been something they filmed after. We've went all over town and cannot find where that would be. Then we have a shot here of Edward's friend standing here smoking a cigarette with an awning above him, and you see that was the Lane Theater, not the Fane Theater at the time. And we see Edward and Carl the Giant over there walking to cross the bridge. This is a better shot of the bridge that we see Will racing across in that red Charger to take his father out to the water to put the big fish back to the sea. The way they shoot it is more from out in the water directly on, but this is the best I can give you. So from that location where Carl and the Giant are leaving, our next location we're going to show you is right over here. You can see the clock because that's where the bank robbery happens. Steve Buscemi and Edward pull off that bank robbery. So right here, this is the exterior of the bank that they rob. The actual interiors were another building here in town, but it was right here. We see Edward and Steve Buscemi. He's Noel, the poet. He has left town, he has left Spectre, and he has gone to a life of crime. They go in there to rob it. Well, Edward's just going to make a deposit, but Noel is going to rob it. Decides once he realizes that's his old pal from Spectre, he makes him a partner, and the bank has no money. So they rob it and come out of here, and that's when they drive off, and he tells them that the bank had no money, but eventually Noel strikes it rich and makes Edward a partner then. Now check this out. They obviously know that Big Fish was filmed here because look, they've got the Big Fish. Now the whole story to the Big Fish is that Edward is telling how the day his son was born, he went fishing because he was no help in the delivery room, so he was out fishing and this fish stole his wedding ring, and he was wrestling with the fish upstream and down, and then said he finally caught the fish and realized that it was pregnant with babies, and if he were to kill it, he would take away the most ingenious fish in that river, or he could just wait for it to have babies and get his ring back. And then the fish coughs up his ring, and he says that he realized that day the only way to catch an unwinnable fish was to offer it a golden ring. And he's giving that speech on the day his son is to get married. And then right on the front door, boom, Big Fish, filmed at this location. Look at that. Right around the corner from all the locations, right here in Ashton, is the Big Fish house. Very obvious, but they even have a sign that lets you know. They're proud. Now don't park in their parking because they have Big Fish family parking. But this is where Edward buys this after he has robbed the bank and it doesn't go well. Noel eventually strikes it rich and is traveling all over the world and everything, and cuts Edward in on some of the wealth. He takes the money and buys this house for her. This is also where the pool would be, where we always see him swimming, but this is mainly what we see in this is while Edward is dying, he's got cancer and he's being treated with chemo, and they decide the chemo's not working, so they take him off, and his son Will comes back from living in Paris to be with his father, trying to reconcile a little bit of their relationship. So it's in this house that we see all the scenes that would have been Albert Finney in bed telling, they would try and have conversations where Will would say, can you tell me the real story of your life? And then of course he would change the subject. Edward would change the subject to something else. So here's the bridge that when Edward asks Will, tell me the story of how I die, he cuts to Edward's original Charger and they're racing through town and they're actually crossing this bridge. We see it from the side. Then right here's where the crash car would be that Carl the Giant moves so that Edward can move and drive down that way. Now we're heading out to where they filmed the Town of Spectre, where Edgar battles through the forest and comes to this picturesque little town. You can actually, it's an island that someone owns, and you can go to it, or at least last time I was here, you could go to it and tour it for a couple bucks. So we're gonna try that. You're gonna be looking for the Jackson Lake Island sign. That's where they built the Town of Spectre, and like Scott just pointed out, notice the Big Fish. You can see here it says Home of Big Fish, $5 per person. see this little bridge when his son Will is coming out to find out why his father's name is on the deed to a house that Jenny Hill owns. And Jenny, her house is actually located out here as well as Spectre, where they built her house location. The scenes where Will brings his father out to the water to die, where all of his friends are surrounding him, were all filmed out here as well. We've come to find Spectre. Do you guys know where Spectre is? I met some of you last time I was here. Here's the town of Spectre. It still remains. This stuff like this is why I got into vlogging, to come find places like this. They actually created this on this little fishing camp. You can see here that they tell a little bit of the story of building it here. Welcome to the mystical town of Spectre from Tim Burton's 2003 movie Big Fish, based on Daniel Wallace novel. The movie sets includes the town of Spectre and the adjoining acre to your right, which is the dark forest. All but 2 artificial trees, so the dark forest is over there. That's pretty cool that he wanders through. Says, all but 2 artificial forest trees were removed for safety reasons. The film's theme is one of reconciliation between a dying father, Edward Bloom, and his son, Will Bloom, who seeks to know the truth of his father's fiction from his father's grand tales. And there's Edward coming through the trees right there. Let's go see what this town in the movie looks like today. And look, they created the trees for that scene for him to walk through this arch. And it's still here. Both trees are here. Some goats are hanging out enjoying it. But this is where he wanders through the dark forest and has the jumping spiders on him. And he says he learned then, or he remembered then, that sometimes the most terrifying things have the greatest reward at the end. So he walks right through. Fellas, can I come through? Can I walk through with you the way Edward would have? Please? Thanks. I'll go around. So he goes in right through here. Look at that. How cool is that? And the shoe tree is still here. Look at that. It was made out of plaster, but it gives them something to, and that's another cool thing, you know, if nothing else, the fact that these goats get to live here and get to take advantage of the sets is pretty amazing. They built those fake trees into one of the real trees. And then there's the Spectre sign. The shoe tree, because you remember Jenny eventually steals his shoes, comes up here and throws them up so he can't leave the town. So the town looks pristine when we first see it. We get a shot right here. It just looks absolutely amazing with these beautiful lights and the town hall and everything here. And then Edward comes back to see that when commerce came through and found the roads here, it just destroyed and killed the town. And he comes back to buy the town. So if you want to see the insides of the buildings, I was here before, look up on my channel, Daze with Jordan the Lion, Spectre from Big Fish, and we go through all of these buildings, or go to Scott Michael's channel. He's going to be showing it as well. It's so cool because some of the scenes, the building that he's having the pie with Steve Buscemi, Noel, that building is still here down there. But when he's buying the town square, some of these have just over time rotted away and they had to take them down for safety reasons, but a lot of the town you can still go through. Pretty cool. I mean, look at this. The chimney is falling apart and you can see that that's fake stone that they created outside of just your typical plywood. Movie magic, baby. I love this because Edward, this is the town that he saves. He ends up buying the whole town and saving the town. Because when he showed up here, they said, they look at their schedule and they say, "You're early." That's what they meant. He's too early because he comes back to save the town. I even had a pair of shoes I was gonna bring to throw up there, and then I accidentally left them. I think I'll show you inside where they had the pie, and if you want to see inside the other buildings and everything from my last trip, go watch that video. So if I remember right, it was this house that they have the pie in right here. Only one way to find out though. There's the church. It's not the church he gets buried in, but it kind of looks like it. Yes, indeed, this is the mayor's house. Looks like they have chicken wired the door shut. Because last time I was here, we actually got to go in and walk around. There's the mayor's house sign. Let me see if I can show you anything. If you come to the back side of the house, some of the windows are broken out and I can show you a little bit here. So you can see some of the sets are still in there, but right over here is the fireplace. So that was in the background while they're eating the pie. Edward would have been sitting closest to the wall, towards us to the right. Right over here on that side of the table where the door is where the poet Steve Buscemi, his character, would have been sitting eating the pie, and the mayor would have been sitting at that table as well. And when little Jenny comes running in and goes under the table and steals Edward's shoes, she runs right out that door and runs over and throws them up on the shoe line. So this was the mayor's house for sure. Here's another view. I was just telling Scott last time I was here you could get in all the houses, but it looks like since they've deteriorated enough to where they don't want anybody in the houses. So even a better reason to go back and watch my earlier vlog from here. This is why they really are, you know, it's cool they let people still out here, but why they're kind of weary about leaving the buildings open. This wasn't even used. Who knows what they did with this, but it definitely was not seen in the movie, obviously. I love seeing this kind of movie magic. Look at this, how they did the fake brick for the church. You can see how it's wearing away, and it's just a thin little layer over top of plywood. How cool is this, Scott, to see just like, you know, the movie magic, like this is behind of the church is just all plywood. Classic movie.
Just like Hollywood.
So since we're on the island, we're gonna go ahead and take this trail a little further. That takes us to where Jenny's house is. You can see the shoe line all the way down there. So now on the same island, we're going to where they built Jenny's house. You see Jenny's house looking really nice and you see it looking really bad. And I'm gonna tell you how they did that. Oh, take a look. The pillars are still there. Awesome. So this is really neat to see. They've put a historical little thing here about how they used this movie, or this house in the movie. You can see the giant there. Once the house has become disheveled and run down, it's all fallen into disrepair on a slant. So Edward talks Jenny into, basically in order for him to save the town, he has to own every property in town, has to be under his name, and she has this house under her name. So he talks her into putting his name on it, and then he will never change anything except help and repair stuff. So when they did this, they actually built the house with hinges so that the house, as you see it's all slanted there, the house actually did look like that. And when the giant pushed it, they had hinges on the tops and the bottoms that actually made it fall more into place. And so you can see the water level has risen, so the house was falling apart, and they just decided to remove it, but they didn't remove the columns in front of the house. For people like us that want to come out and see it, this just makes doing this stuff so much more fun. Look at this. You not only got the pillars across the front, but you also got the beams that the house would have also been stable on. Look at that. And the hinges still on top. So we see Will finds the deed to this house and sees that it's got his father's name on. He's wondering why his father owns this house. He thinks his father is actually leading a double life and was cheating on his mother the whole time. And then when he comes out here, Jenny really tells him the story of who his father is and what he's done for this town of Spectre. Will then kind of starts to realize and understand that through the whole movie, he thinks that his father is constantly lying about his life, and he's starting to see that maybe not all of it was as much of fiction as he thought. Here's what the house looked like when it was really nice in the movie. And here's what it looked like when it was in disrepair. And it was all right there. This is so amazing to see that these are still here. I love this kind of stuff. So we've made our way over to Huntingdon College, which doubles as Auburn University in Big Fish.
So what ends up originally bringing us out here is that you remember, while Edward is getting the giant a job with Danny DeVito's circus, he sees the love of his life and he wants to meet her, but Danny DeVito won't let him. He says basically Edward says, I'll work for you and you don't even have to pay me, you just have to tell me something about her. So Danny DeVito agrees to tell him one thing per month about her, and after 3 years he finally tells him that his love's name is Sandra Templeton and that she goes to Auburn, so he comes here to find her and meet her.
So we end up with this shot, and we have a younger Edward, about 21 years old, is standing right there at the fountain with his foot up there, and an older Edward is narrating that he says he took 3 trains to get to Auburn that day to find Sandra. So then as we leave Flowers Hall, he actually goes right next door, right over here, and that's where Sandra lives. That's her fraternity house. So it's actually right here at the Miriam Jackson home. This was the place where he gets the nerve to finally go see his love. We get a shot right here of Edward's back, an over-the-shoulder shot. Now you can tell it's changed a little bit. One thing that's changed from the movie, they didn't have the wheelchair accessible ramp here, and right above the doorway and below the windows, right in that little section right there is where they would have had her sorority sign. Sorry if I said fraternity, sorority sign. Then he gets the nerve to walk up to that doorway, and that's where the door opens and he sees Sandra. And he tells her he's been in love with her for years, 3 years, and she has to break it to him that she's already engaged.
And then it's on this campus where he meets her fiance, who was his old childhood friend, and he tells him he's not going to fight him if it means he can have Sandra. So he gets beat up here and ends up in the hospital.
So now we're going out to our final scene with everyone. Welcome to Pine Flat Church, the location of Edward's funeral. Wow, that's amazing to see the church. Just to the left of the church is where they actually had the funeral service for Edward. His burial takes place right over here. So we kind of get this shot right here when Will and his mother and his wife get out of the limousine and start looking around. You can see the bulk of the people are working their way over to the grave, and they show right over here where everybody that he ever knew came and is parking right there. You see Carl get out of a car, and Danny DeVito, who ran the circus, they come walking into the cemetery. And you can kind of find out where they actually took the shots of from the film, because the obelisk is still there. That is, and actually it looks like there is still a big empty space where they laid everything out for the movie. Interesting. I'm kind of surprised, because honestly, you know, when you see enough of these movies, you kind of realize, oh, sometimes the headstones that you see in the movie weren't actually there. They put them there for some reason or another. And this open space right here is where they would have had the funeral. So bulk of what we see is that's crazy. This is James Edward. I was like, oh, sometimes they actually do have a plot for a movie character, but this actually looks like that's a real person. They held the funeral right here. And you can see the church in the background, some of the shots. So when we compared it to the movie, it looks like what they did, even though it's a different angle, like the lens is a different angle lens. It looks like it realistically, they would have had Edward's grave right here. His family would have been seated, lined up along here, and then you would have had people going all along there. Show you the overhead shot from the movie. Then you have a really great moment afterward of all these people that Edward had met all along his journey through life. They're all kind of over here by the side of the church, and they're sharing these whopper stories. You can tell because as they tell them, their faces are just lighting up and they have such exaggerated expressions that it's like, you can kind of tell like the spirit of Edward has rubbed off on them. And that's like, the point of this movie was like the life that you leave behind. The people you leave behind. So we see all that at the end. Various groups of people telling stories, and Will just walking along, seeing the impact his father left. So because of the lens that they use, you can see that over everyone's shoulder during the funeral. The mayor and everyone that came.
Well, my friends, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed our filming locations of Big Fish around and near the Montgomery, Alabama area. I love this movie, and I hope you enjoyed our locations. Scott and I had a blast doing this, and if you can get out, go see some of these. Wetumpka is an amazing town. A lot of movies and things have been filmed there. The Spectre Island is worth visiting. Just get out and see things in your life for yourself. If it's your first time here, please hit the like button, please subscribe, and please ring the bell for notifications. We'll see you all next time from somewhere else along the line. Have a great night and goodbye.